How is quarantine going for you?
Uh,
Sooner or later, all conversations lead toward quarantine and COVID-19, so we got to spend a little time on that.
well, I'll say that, when I was I was just finishing up, let me see. I had finished Max Meow book one when quarantine started to kick up. And luckily, the National Wildlife Federation, which publishes Ranger Rick, they sent us all home very early in March. And of course, we all thought it was going to be a month, 2 months. And it really, we had some edits. We had some changes to book one because, when you're putting that first book together, there's certain things that you realize once you put it together, oh, this isn't going to work if we're going to keep doing this as a series. So I had a lot of edits, and it worked out really well for me at first because suddenly I didn't have that hour and a half commute. So automatically I had over an hour added to my schedule every day, because what I would do at Ranger Rick is often I'd work at lunch hour. I might work on Max Meow, or I would work, finish my work for the day and then start working and stay at the office. So now, since I was home, I had a little more flexibility to jump on Max Meow, jump on Ranger Rick. And it's just, but it's also that danger of getting yourself to stop. And for me, it's never been, oh, I can't get myself to work at home. It's how do I get myself to stop? And but it's actually worked out well because I've had I have people help me do the color for Max Meow. And I was actually, for the first time, able to bring in some young local artists who had an interest in doing comics. They never had. I was able to, have them on as assistants, and having them there at the dining table with me was really great because I found it, I do better when I've got people around me, and we were able to go back and forth, and it really has sped up the process. We don't have to go and make as many corrections because we're all sitting there together. And also, my kids are all school from home, including my college-age daughter, and she's going to university, but she's virtual right now. And I have my two sons as well. So it's neat because they're still seeing me. I'm working very hard on all these things, but they're around, and we have that time we need to have. Whereas if I was having to go into an office and maybe staying at the office, that might actually be harder. So it's a balance. I mean, there's some days. There was one day I had a conference call. I had to go outside, and the wind is blowing, and I'm like, this is literally the only place I can be right now, except the garage. But,
So, how are you finding ways to promote Max Meow? Because I'm assuming you're virtual. Obviously, you're now on the greatest podcast that could ever be, so that you got that sorted. But what other things are you doing to make sure that you're getting the word out? Since I assume school visits are out for a while.
Yeah, well, what's great is schools and the teachers have been so great in adapting to the changing environment. And even though it was kind of rough and tumble for a while, the school districts have gotten so good at adapting, and with Zoom and Google Meetups and things like that. So I've been doing virtual visits to schools. And to give you an example, there's a school in Maryland, a school district, instead of visiting 150 kids at a time, I did an appearance and there were 600 kids on there. It was the entire elementary school section of this town, and it was really fun. Now, what was nice was there was an organizer who basically had a chat room open so that they could ask questions, and they did have mute on because 600 kids all yelling at once would be tough. But I did miss that. I missed hearing that cheering, and that's been good. I've done a bunch of podcasts. Of course, I've done tonight the coolest podcast around, and really they all.
Wild Cat on the Street is the coolest podcast around, but secondly.
That's right. Well, I so would love, like I said, I used to do animation. I would love to come up with like an app that has a little animation of Max going, here's my correspondent on the street. And then kids can film themselves doing news things. Again, like my wife always says, yeah, you need another project. Yeah, and I've been doing that. There's been a lot of social media on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And what I will say is people are very understanding that I'm maybe promoting a little heavier than I would. And people are sharing like never before and just being really, really, really supportive. So.
Well, that's book 1. By book 30, you'll be over it, and you'll you won't even bother messing with
I'm still working on read. You got me on 30 already. It started at 20 and now I'm up to 30.
Well, I'm heavy to 50 before we're done.